Thank you. I appreciate it. And thanks for everyone for joining this afternoon. Appreciate your time, and we'll try and be efficient with it. First, just would like to thank Governor Beshear and our friends in the legislature for their help in sort of working through a new paradigm of what is going on in college athletics and what is going on in our world. Yesterday was a first step in a new journey, and I'd like to thank Governor Beshear for working through the conversations that are so difficult to get to a spot where we were able to do this for our student athletes. I also want to thank our coaches, Coach Cal and Coach Stoops and Coach Elzey, for their advice and their counsel through all of this. I'd like to thank our coaches in general. I'd like to thank our staff and Rachel Baker for her incredible efforts, and the folks in our university administration, and our student athletes who patiently just sort of watched and said, okay, how does this all come together? And as we continue to try and find the landscape and get everyone in a comfortable spot as we move forward. So with that, I'll stop and begin. We'll walk through some questions and give you some time to sort of get your questions answered.
All right, we're going to start off with John Hale with the Courier Journal. Go ahead, John.
Mitch, who exactly I guess, makes the decision as to what is acceptable endorsements within the department? And then what are the penalties for a player who signs an endorsement that you all don't approve, I guess?
Yeah, so great question, John. Really a lot of hypotheticals. We're in the early stages of putting all those pieces together. And I think it's really important as we walk through this to understand what yesterday was and what yesterday wasn't. Yesterday was the first day, and it sort of gave us the ability to step forward with policies and with procedures, and I think the journey is a long one. We're still awaiting NCAA governance next week. They will probably come through with some new language in some way, shape, or form, uncertain as to what that is. This is a bridge that gets us to January, where we can put the legislation firmly in place through the state legislature in January. And then the last piece, obviously, is the hope that at some point there will be federal legislation which ties all 50 states together and gives us an opportunity to all sing from one hymn book. So to sit here and say that our parameters today answer all the questions forever would probably be a really not a great place to start. So I think we gently begin to walk the journey, and I think that's what we're trying to do here. And as you know, as we've done most of our work here, we will we'll take gentle steps in this and try and find a way to not rush into mistakes.
Ben Roberts, the Herald Leader, will go to you next, and then Tim Sullivan after that.
Yeah, Mitch, what's the process right now for a student athlete who has questions or even starting, I guess, July 1st has maybe a money-making venture that they want to pursue? Is, I guess, who would be the point of contact? What kind of guidance would they get from the university?
So we've in terms of guidance, and Ben, we've worked through a lot of different pieces leading into this. We've got a piece of our educational process that we put all of our student athletes and walk them through. It's called the Kentucky Road, and it's part of our new Kentucky Home. When they come to our program, we walk through those pieces as it relates to how they brand themselves in terms of their lifelong branding, as it relates to their social media, as it relates to financial literacy, all of those pieces. So those are educational pieces that are currently in place for us as they get into these kind of conversations. Obviously, that's going to start probably in the area of our compliance office. I don't know if that's how it'll be called. You know, there might be another name for it as we go forward. We'll always have compliance as it relates to our NCAA compliance, but we may reframe that window. So Rachel Baker will be the lead person as we talk through these challenges and the new era we're in, and she'll work at that. And that's the starting point. There will be a clearinghouse as we go through that. We've got software in all of that is in place, and that'll be a part of this. We'll have obviously some sign-offs, and there'll have to be some of those things we'll sign off to and work our way through that. And it's for the protection of the student athlete as well as the protection of the institution. And so really, really important. With these new rights come massive responsibilities. And so it's important that we marry those two things up together. The rights and responsibilities are together in the right spot.
Tim Sullivan, will go to you, and then John Long.
Yeah, Mitch, I'm wondering if you have a feel for what this marketplace is likely to look like. Vince Tyre was on a call a little while ago and said he would not be surprised if he pulled his car into a parking lot next to a player's Mercedes at some point in the future. Clearly, with Kentucky basketball, there's very high-profile players come through there, and the financial opportunities are easy to imagine. What is your expectation along those lines, and what impact do you think significant income is likely to have on college athletics going forward?
Tim, I think it's a very hypothetical question, clearly. And so for me to speculate, I think would be really difficult. I think there is opportunities out there for some folks that will be probably greater than others. And I think that the challenge will be multiple, and that it's going to be make sure that the focus, I hope, of our young people begins with their educational experience, and they continue to want to be educated at an institution of higher learning. The second thing I would hope is that they would want to maintain the relationships and the reason that they came to an institution of higher learning, especially in Division I level, to play college athletics in the Southeastern Conference or wherever that would be. Those are their two mission statements, and out of those two pieces allows them to have this incredible opportunity to do a third thing, which is monetize some of the things that come with their name, image, and their likeness. And so hopefully we can begin to prioritize those things in some way, shape, or form for our young people to be able to understand how it all comes together in a package. I think there will be opportunities for some young people to be greater than others. And the relationship for all of those folks in a locker room is going to be really, really important to find a way to make sure that you maintain that. And that doesn't become the focus rather than the ability to go out and do something really, really uniquely cool together competitively.
As
So
a
I
quick
think
follow-up,
that's a challenge, but we'll continue to work at and educate. And I think education is continued, but that's the third pillar of our priorities at Kentucky, is to be lifelong learners and to educate. And so this is a new area for us to both us be educated and for them to be educated. And I think it's really, really important because this is new ground for everyone.
as a quick follow-up, I wonder if you could comment on whether you're aware of any prospective deals that may be waiting for July 1st.
You know, I think you hear a lot of things that are areas that people, I think, in the new world of social media, the new world of, the different avenues to do that. I think that there's things we have been made aware of in terms of things that might be available to our student athletes. How that gets monetized and who gets to monetize those is really interesting. Again, it's foreign territory for me as a person. That's not something that I enjoy, and it's not something I'm going to take advantage of. But at the end of the day, I know that our young people may want that opportunity, and if they do, then we've got to figure out a way to help them understand both the sides of what it means to assign their name and their image and their likeness to that, and what that can look like, and the expectations that go with that. So I think we just continue to work through that. I think, again, Rachel has done a remarkable job of getting us prepared, but we've been doing this a long time in terms of preparing our young people for the new world as they leave Kentucky. Now we've just fast-tracked it, and now they're going to get a bigger idea of what it looks like while they're at Kentucky. And so I think that it's certainly a changing landscape.
John Wong, will go to you, and then Dennis Ting from WHS will be next.
Hey, Mitch, from everything that I've read, it seems like so many people feel like this is a move in a positive direction. And yet, on the other hand, we hear about everybody saying the sky's going to fall, and issues from compliance to team chemistry to distractions. I mean, here are these people, they may be getting a full-time job trying to earn money. So in your mind, what is the biggest obstacle? What are you most worried about? What keeps you awake at night now?
Well, John, there's a lot of things that keep me awake at night. This is, but this is a piece of a bigger puzzle. Okay. For anyone to sit here and say we've been on one polar position of never wanting to do any of this to having the door wide open, and all of a sudden now we're in this incredible new landscape and it's 100 miles an hour. I think finding balance in all of this will be really, really important, and finding a way to walk through this with our young people. I think that those that are thoughtful about how they do this have an opportunity to do some really remarkable things that would be uniquely different for them and would help set them up for life after athletics. We always talk about how many people actually go pro in the landscape. It's very few. So there's people out there, and I go to the young woman who has the most social media of anybody in our department. And I would venture to say most of you don't know that. It's Masai Russell. Masai Russell has the largest media following, social media following of anybody in our department by far. It's not close. But she doesn't wake up every day just rolling out and saying, okay, who all's going to join me? She works at it. And she works at it not because she's a tremendous track athlete, which, oh, by the way, she is. She works at it because she's found a way in a niche in what she is trying to do for life beyond track and field to be able to put something together for her. And so that's the kind of thoughtfulness that it will take for us to be able to watch them, help them, for them to be able to help themselves and find their way to this unique spot. And that's really, really a cool thing.
Dennis Ting, go ahead.
Yeah. Hey, Mitch. Just wanted to ask, yesterday when the governor's release mentioned that, kind of a collaborative effort. Sorry about that. So how exactly did the executive order come about? How did you work with the governor to kind of make it happen to get to where we are right now?
I think there was a lot of folks that were involved. The governor reached out on a couple of occasions to a variety of folks in the University of Louisville department and in Kentucky's department. Had really candid conversations with Coach Calipari and with Coach Stoops and myself on our side. I thank Cal for his leadership in this, and he's been really he's thoughtful. We all know that how thoughtful he is about a lot of these issues, and making sure the student athletes are always at the forefront of our conversations, which we've done that for years. We've always been at the forefront of conversations for the University of Kentucky. I think that's why our department has steadily moved forward as we built a culture of students first. And it's been 500 student athletes strong. It's not just about 10 athletes or 15 athletes or 80 athletes. It's been about all of them. And Cal's aware of that. And he said, to his credit, he said, how can I help? And he had conversations, and I think all of it was brought together, and realizing that we were coming up on a date on July 1, there was great hope that there had been federal legislation that would have occurred by then. It did not occur, will not occur by July 1. I do have hope that there will be federal legislation going forward. I think that will be incredibly important to tie all 50 states together. And then it became apparent that the NCAA, although my hope is that on Monday or Tuesday, when the council meets again, that'll get firmed up and give the other folks who don't have the luxury of a state bill or an executive order or anything like that, that they'll have the opportunity to let their student athletes also participate nationally. Thank you.
Next, we'll go with Andrew Chernoff and then Dick Gabriel.
Hey, Mitch, it's Andrew Chernoff. A couple of questions here. Could this do you worry this could create a bigger gap between the Power 5 and the non-Power 5 just based on exposure for some of these players, and all these players are going to go to these Power 5 schools now? And then I know you keep mentioning how this is happening so quickly. What do you think the NCAA is going to look like in 10 years down the road?
That's a great question. I don't know that the landscape has changed. I've been an athletic director for, I guess, closing in on 25 years. And if you'd have told me in 1998 that the landscape would be where we are today, I don't know that I would have believed it. But that landscape has changed dramatically as social media has changed and as opportunities are changing. So I don't know that it's really easy for me to speculate where we'll be in 10 years. I think the landscape and most of the things that we're doing is changing fairly rapidly. So I think that we've got to be fluid. I think what happens is, again, people jump to polar positions in almost everything that they do. Rather than trying to find balance and being steady in these conversations, we jump to a position of, oh my, we've got to grab onto this before the ship leaves the station or train leaves the station or whatever that case may be, rather than, all right, let's take a breath, let's pause a little bit and make sure that we find the right pathway, a steady pathway through this, and walk it together. And so that's my encouragement for our folks, is that we don't jump into areas that we can't come back from, vice versa, and same for our student athletes. I don't want them to make mistakes. I don't want them to make lifelong mistakes. All of a sudden you attach your name to something and it goes horribly wrong for you. And all of a sudden you regret that for a good long time. Or it affects your family, it affects you personally. And those are things we've got to help, as much as it's guarding our department and our university and those kind of things. We've also got to guard our young people. That is incumbent upon us. They're 18 to 22-year-olds. And I know they're really, really bright people, but I also want to make sure that they're ready for the next steps. And it's important that through our Kentucky Road and the educational pieces, the financial literacy we have in place, the how you brand yourself going forward, your social media, all of those things we talk about, how do we make sure we do a good job of protecting our young people? But for me to speculate where we're going to be in 10, 12, 15 years, I don't think if anyone says they can do that, they're really, I don't know that they can do that.
Hey, Gabriel, go ahead, and then John Clay will be next.
Mitch, you kind of alluded to this just now, but with regard to balance, I've had a lot of fans ask me or tell me they're concerned that recruiting might turn into a little more than a bidding war. How much of a concern within your industry is there about that? And how do you find balance in legislation when it comes to trying to maintain the spirit of this new mandate?
I do believe that what you've got is a new paradigm for where we are in college athletics, and we're going to have to be attentive to that. I do believe at the end of the day, we're still a relationship enterprise. If a young person, if the only reason they're coming to an institution is because of their NIL deal or their opportunity to do that, then I don't know where you've established your relationship. The relationship with your coaches, the relationship with the other teammates in your locker room, I hope continue to be first and foremost as we try and build quality departments, all right, and qualities teams and have quality experiences. And we're having national championship opportunities like we did in volleyball. I will assure you, our volleyball team was amazing on the court. Absolutely incredible, and brought home a national championship to the Bluegrass. And I'm sure that in the back of their minds as they left the court, there was probably a couple of them said, I wonder if my name, image, likeness, what, but that when they took the court, that wasn't their first thought. Their first thought was, how do we raise a trophy for each other? And I hope that that continues to be the reason that we choose and the reason that we play and the reason that we compete together and we join together in locker rooms is that relationship and the ability to share moments that are incredibly special. But out of that, we are allowed to have unique opportunities that avail themselves because of what we do. And so we're a relationship, team oriented enterprise that I hope continues to be the reason that we have people that want to be a part of our program.
We'll go John, Clay, Andy Sweeney, and then we'll have maybe a few minutes for a couple follow-up questions. Go ahead, John.
Mitch, as you understand it right now, or as it stands right now, does the athletic department and the university have legal standing to tell a student athlete what they can and cannot endorse? And a follow-up to that, do you foresee that being written into future scholarship offers?
Yeah, I don't know, John, on the last part, I don't know how the scholarship offers will look in the future. I think that a lot will depend on NCAA policy as well, and what that comes, how that language comes out in the next week or next months. I mean, again, this is day one. We're not even on day one. July 1 would be day one. But, you know, I think we're in the early stages of the marathon. And so for us to be able to say what the policy is, we're again in the early stage. I think we're getting close to finishing a policy. We're going to obviously have something that we'll be able to share with our student athletes, and we wanted to get the language right with the executive order with the governor and his staff, and work with them on that. That process has been completed, and now we can work through the policy and have an opportunity to share that with our student athletes. But obviously, we want to be able to protect all 500 student athletes in this process. That's important. And so we want to make sure that that is a part of our conversation. And I don't think there's no one in our department, when I speak to that, our student athletes, that's going to go sit there and say, you know what, I'm going to do something, I hope, that without some knowledge that it could cost or hurt someone else in their locker room or someone else in a different locker room. There's no one doing that. No one starts in that spot. So we want to make sure that we do a good job of, again, protecting the things that allow us to provide 22 sports teams, 500 student athletes, and continue to move the experience forward. There are young people in our program that have no interest in this. That is not something that they're interested in. And there are some that are going to be very interested in it. And we've got to make sure we meet both of those needs.
Andy, go ahead.
Hey, Mitch, just a couple, if you don't mind. Number one, you guys have had some athletes, mostly on the football side, I've seen especially that have put out there, hey, kind of open for business. What is the process? Do they bring that deal to you beforehand? What is the process there from beginning to end? And then have you already had a student athlete say, hey, I've been reached out to, I have something here when it gets to July 1st? Thank you.
So yes, there would be a process involved, Andy, and they would need to walk with us through our compliance department, or however we brand that department. And as part of that conversation, and register those things with us. And then we would also be able to walk with them on it. We've certainly had some student athletes that have said, hey, I've got a couple of what ifs. And so we're saying, okay, with July 1, we can begin to have real conversation about what those can be and how those are set up. But up until that point in time, press pause and give us 5 more days. And then we'll walk through this together.
Guys, we got a little less than 5 minutes here, so I'll get to the follow-up questions in the order they came in. Ben, we'll start with you.
Yeah, Mitch, obviously you've got a lot of coaches right now actively recruiting. Do they have any limits on what they can tell recruits as far as how they might be able to profit specifically off, or even broadly off NIL if they come to Kentucky?
That is all. I think that what we're saying to folks right now is they have an opportunity because of the NIL legislation that's been enacted by the governor. We now have an opportunity to be able to say, we can help you with that. And we can show you what that looks like and how you best use the pathway forward. But there is, that is not part of our recruiting piece in terms of these are the deals that you have. All right. So that's not part of this conversation. The conversation is, these are the things that are now available under legislation. There's more legislation to come, but Kentucky is participating in the name, image, likeness legislation, as are 23, 29 other states at this point in time, and essentially everyone will eventually be in this conversation. I would very much say by the end of next week, when the council meets and say, like, the legislation that get passed next week will probably be the one that allows everyone to have a window forward.
John Hale, go ahead, and then John Wong will end it with you.
Mitch, sorry, we haven't talked to you in a while, so just one non-NIL question. What was your evaluation of the men's basketball season, and did you encourage Cal to make changes within the program that we've seen over the last several weeks?
You know, it's obviously been a long time since basketball. I think you guys have probably written and talked about it an awful lot. You know, obviously it's not where we want to be. Our goal is to hang banners in Rupp Arena and win number 9 and bring that back to the Bluegrass for our fans. And so that will be supremely focused on that. And I just encourage Cal to take whatever steps he needed to do within what he thought was best for our program to move forward, and to get us back to the spot where we know we belong. That is the place we are comfortable is talking about deep runs in March. And that's who we want to be. We went through a really difficult year with COVID. It was a challenging year from a lot of perspectives, with a team that was fairly new and together in terms of their togetherness. You know, had some problems getting to the finish line and gelling. Not what we wanted, but we're supremely focused on number 9 and getting back to obviously New Orleans. Would be a wonderful reunion back there in March of next year. And so that's our focus.
John Wong, you got the final question. Go ahead.
Mitch, how do you anticipate this affecting your relationship with JMI, specifically the exclusivity that they have with you?
Yeah, John, thanks. We work pretty closely, obviously, in all the conversations with the JMI, and they've been wonderful partners of ours. We've walked through these conversations with them, and we'll continue to walk through the policies that we put in place and making sure that we protect as best we can all the pieces to the enterprise with them. That's important. The relationship with JMI gives us the opportunity as one component in our budget. You know, we're approximately $150 million budget, and that is a significant part of our opportunity to provide for our young people. And so that'll be something we'll walk, and we'll find balance in all of that. They've been terrific through every piece, from the very beginning when we started with JMI to pandemic, to transition in relationships and our facilities and rights, and they've been unbelievable. So my thanks to Eric Judson and the folks at JMI as we continue just to navigate these new waters, and they've been terrific. And so thankful for their patience with us.